If you want to pump your body and expand your mind, there's only one place to go. Mind Pump. Mind Pump with your hosts, Sal DiStefano, Adam Schaefer, and Justin Andrews.
In this episode of Mind Pump,
hello.
For 37 minutes, we do our introductory conversation. We start out by talking about how Mind Pump is sick. We're all sick.
And not like cool, like, yeah, we're sick.
No, not cool,
No.
like ill.
Yeah, like ill.
Yeah, like literally ill.
Illest.
We all got it from, I think we think now Katrina was patient zero. So
we're narrowing it down.
And we are talking about how we're using our sponsored products like Organifi's Pumpkin Spice Gold Juice, or as Adam likes to call it, Pumpkin Spice Gold Juice. We're using that and the green juice to get ourselves well faster. Of course, we are sponsored by Organifi. If you go to Organifi.com/MindPump and enter the code MindPump, you'll get 20% off. Adam talks about his mom's wedding this weekend. Sounds like a great time.
Oh, yeah.
Took more pictures with babies. Little foreshadowing.
Hashtag Daddy Adam.
Then we talked about Butcher Box's Thanksgiving feasts.
Oh, I'm excited for this.
This is actually kind of crazy. You can order pretty much most of your Thanksgiving dinner through Butcher Box. The turkey, they also have options with sausage and lamb meat and all kinds of awesome stuff. Great price. You need to order it soon. Last year, they sold out very, very quickly. If you go to butcherbox.com/mindpump and you sign up, here's what you get. Free bacon, 2 ribeyes, $10 off, and free shipping on your first order. Pretty good stuff.
Oh, I'm in.
Absolutely. Then we talked about a new cannabis-based cancer drug. We talked about cannabis and alcohol. We did mention our other sponsor, Ned. They do produce hemp extracts. These are full-spectrum cannabinoid-based hemp extracts. So this is fully legal from hemp. If you go to HelloNed, HELLONED.com/mindpump, you'll get 15% off your first purchase. Then we talked about the legalization of weed in Canada and the decriminalization of drugs, the coffee culture, and Justin wanted to tell us about a new trend that he saw.
Yeah, he's going to do.
I'm trying to throw that in there.
Nose warmers. Yep, you heard right. Nose warmers.
You got to Google it.
We are not sponsored by them.
No.
Then we got into the questions. The first question was, this individual's asking about binge eating. How do you beat binge eating? Like, what is going on? Why do we go off and eat so much food that we can't breathe anymore and then feel really bad about ourselves? What is happening? Of course, we're not medical experts, but we do give our advice based on our experience as personal trainers. The next question was, what is the biggest mental hurdle that we've all had to overcome in our lives? This one gets a little emotional, I think.
Yeah. So sad.
And the next question, if we had all the time in the world and no life restrictions, what would we want to immerse ourselves in and learn more about? And finally, the last question, is there such a thing as a weed hangover? In other words, can you consume too much marijuana, or as Justin likes to say, marijuana?
Marijuana.
Can you have too much and then have a hangover the next day? We know the answer to that.
We do know the answer to that.
Very well.
You're in luck.
Also, listen, it's October. Happy Halloween. Maps Aesthetic, your favorite Maps program, the one that's designed to make you look fucking awesome, is 50% off all month long. Maps Aesthetic, 50% off.
It's scary.
Go to mapsblack.com and use the code BLACK50, BLACK, the number 50, no space, and get 50% off. Now, if you are interested in any of our other Maps programs, if you want to find out if there's others that more suit your goals, your needs, and your experience, just go to mapsfitnessproducts.com.
T-shirt time!
And it's T-shirt time.
Oh, my favorite time.
Here it is.
All right, we got a bunch of reviews on both iTunes and on Facebook. Starting out with iTunes, we have 2 winners. We have Track and the Bogey Monster.
Oh.
Both of you are winners there.
Scary.
And on Facebook, we have Adam Witt, Holly Wayland, Healthy Life, Happy Me, Rohayem, and Jennifer Holcomb. All of you are winners. Send the name I just read to iTunes at mindpumpmedia.com. Send your shirt size, your shipping address, and we'll get that right out to you.
So you can leave a review on our public Facebook page. That's the place to leave a review. And you can also leave it on iTunes. Get yourself a free shirt.
Up your chances.
Hey, if you're listening right now and you're wondering why we all sound super sexy.
Yeah.
Because
Hell
we all
yeah.
caught the same cold.
I know.
That's why. You know, it reminds me of.
This may be the first time we've all podcasted sick together.
Yeah.
I think so.
I want to get slippers on, watch cartoons all day today.
I want to get so cozy.
Oh, man.
Do you know?
Watch some Dr. Phil.
I've got to move. I just thought of something for
A move?
for the boys out there that listen to this. So my mom used to do something for me when I was a young kid. It's one of my favorite memories of my mom is when I would get sick, and it was like this traditional thing. You get sick as a kid, you stay home from school, which every kid gets excited for that, and it means I'm watching cartoons all day. And she would come home whenever I was sick, and she'd come home with a bottle of 7-Up and coloring books, and that was like a traditional thing that I did. I carried that on as a teenage boy. That was like the thing that I did for my girlfriends, and they
Did you give him coloring books?
and a 7-Up
How old
bottle.
were these
As an
girls you were
adult?
dating?
Yeah, well, this is like when I was a kid. You know what I'm saying? But it was like it was the move when I was a young kid. So
yeah.
I'm trying to shed some light on that. And,
Talk about brilliant
How
marketing.
cool
on-
would that
on-
be to be like go through coloring book now?
Right
as an
now?
adult? Yeah.
no, I would totally do that.
I would do
Really?
it.
I would
Yeah.
totally dig that.
Do you guys?
especially when you're
My
sick.
tongue's sticking
Especially
out
when you're
and
sick and you're laid up and after you got caught up on all your favorite seasons and you've watched 2 or 3 movies, like you're over. Like I get over television really quick unless it's just like I got lucky and got sick right when I was right in the middle of like watching like an awesome. But when
You
does that
know
ever
what?
happen?
There are people that do that. It's like a meditative thing, right? You're just hyper focused on like,
Coloring?
They have like really advanced versions of like coloring books now.
Absolutely.
Like, now that I think about it.
Do you have kids, Justin? So are you coloring at the restaurants when they give you guys
Yeah,
crayons?
100%.
Are you really?
And drawing and everything. They always throw things out. They want me to draw something for them. So there's this one restaurant we go to all the time, this Mexican restaurant, and they have the white paper and the crayon, so you write on the table. And so I'm always drawing things for them and stuff, dude.
Is
to
it
pass
like
the time.
is it like tanks shooting?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Usually tank shooting, like Mario Brothers or like, video game characters and like people's
That's
heads
awesome.
exploding.
That's so awesome.
Things like I try to carry this
Dude,
tradition on.
I was just thinking, what brilliant marketing on 7-Up's part. Like, when the fuck did that become a thing you did? It's true. When I was
Yeah.
a kid too.
Me too.
It's either ginger ale or 7-Up
Yep.
when you're not feeling good. Brilliant. Like,
And like saltine crackers. I
Yeah.
think that was like
Yeah.
a thing too.
dude, imagine how smart, like the marketing team, they're in there like, all right, how are we going to sell more? I know, let's pretend like this helps you when you're sick. And they're like,
Yeah.
but it's a bunch of sugar.
'Cause it's
Nobody
fizzy.
cares. Yeah, just give them the fizziness and they'll feel better about it.
It's
Yeah.
true.
It's brilliant.
I know it is.
Yeah.
It is, and we carried it on. We carried it on in our family for many, many years. So
Now, ginger ale actually may have some properties because of the
Just
ginger.
'cause of the ginger.
Yeah, because ginger is
That's like-
anti-nausea and anti-inflammatory. Ginger's in the same family, as turmeric, and they have those anti-inflammatory effects. So,
yeah.
I jumped on the Organifi cold buster that Justin had talked about. So I posted on my Insta
what'd you
story.
do?
Just the green juice, the turmeric, and then I have the Edelberry or
Elderberry.
Elderberry.
Yeah.
I said why do I always? You know what it is? It's Edelman. That's why for the Patriots.
Oh yeah,
That's right.
I know who that is.
Yeah. Like you feel a little bit of a difference that way. At
No,
least, temporarily.
So
even.
what I will say about how I am sick today, and it came on hard yesterday, but I started to feel it the night before. Like I felt my throat starting to close up and it was itchy, and so I jumped on that right away. And today I don't feel that bad considering we're all sick, and that
It's a fast and hard cold.
I feel like I fought it off pretty well. Considering I saw Katrina, she was sick last week and she was knocked down for a couple of days.
Oh,
yeah,
wait
I'm
a minute.
definitely functional.
Maybe she's patient 0. Is she the first one that got everybody sick?
She might be.
Thanks, Katrina.
Oh man, I knew because it's not nobody in my family's sick, and I'm like, where did I get this
It
from?
was Katrina.
Yeah.
You know what's weird though? That seriously, we've all been working together now almost 4 years. Doug doesn't get sick at all.
Solid as a rock.
It's like what's that movie with what the hell's his name?
Unbreakable.
Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What if he's actually
He's
a
unbreakable.
mutant?
Yeah.
What if he's got mutant superpowers we just don't know?
He might.
Someone punch him.
Let's get him a
See
poncho.
if he feels it.
If I had to pick someone's shit to eat, it would be his for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
You know what?
Always back to that.
The people listening who have no idea what you're referring to right now.
Yeah, I know.
Are all,
Just throw that in there like
Yeah.
it's common knowledge. I like
yeah,
that. Yeah, that's good.
That's like 100 episodes ago. Yeah.
Throwback.
People are tuning in.
I want someone to-
first episode of Mind Pump.
I'm throwing out this challenge. Shout out to Julie because she's probably the best with some of this stuff, and she's always on the forum. I would love for someone to put put together like a 10-question trivia like that. You'd have to be an OG.
That would be cool
to pick up like some like hidden,
like super subtle.
Yeah, things that we've said maybe once or twice in 800 episodes or 900, where the hell we're at right now.
We'll do like a how well do you know mind pump quiz.
Yeah. So maybe somebody on the forum could formulate it and we could do something with it. I think
maybe we'll post it in our story and then whoever gets it right gets like a free program or something like that.
Do something cool.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
But you know, you talked about turmeric. The gold juice, Organifi gold juice, is packed with turmeric. Yeah. So you could just have that with the green. You can mix the two together.
Did they get the pumpkin spice yet?
They did.
They did. So it's up and live on the website, but we haven't received it yet. I can't wait to try that.
Yeah, well, the regular gold tastes like amazing.
I know. So I'm but everything pumpkin spice right now.
I know. Pumpkin is with an M.
It's like
who
pumpkin?
What is
you say pumpkin.
I like pumpkin.
I said pumpkin, bro.
It's like you're punkin people.
You're recorded.
No, get out of here, bro.
Rewind your podcast right now.
Get the fuck out. Yeah.
I wish there was that like little feature. Like
I think I fucked up so many words that you guys are like waiting. You're like waiting for one. Like wait. What did you say right there?
Yeah.
Say that one more time.
Let's fix that.
Let me hear that.
Yeah.
You didn't roll the R.
That's not how you're supposed to say it.
Get the fuck out of here with that. That was pumpkin. I know it. Pumpkin.
You just have to say it faster, Adam.
Yeah.
We're catching you now.
I didn't know Edelberry.
Elderberry.
Elderberry. Because of Edelman.
Yeah. Did you guys have good weekends or what? Or just laid up because you had a wedding? You were in a wedding.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So my mom got married. Congratulations, Mom. Even though my mom doesn't listen to the podcast, but her husband does. So
What's her new last name?
Huh? Quick.
Oh, well, he must be cool then.
Yeah. Tammy Quick now. So it was Lonnie.
Congratulations, Quick.
Yeah.
Quicks.
So Lonnie, her new husband, shout out to him. Great guy. Really, really like him.
We met him, didn't we? Meet him once?
Yes. He's been up here before.
Yeah,
really
seems like a nice guy.
All right.
Really, really good dude. They make a great match. They actually had it at his house, their house, on the Delta. So they live like right on the water, and there's like this, I don't know what you call it, fucking almost like a dam between their house and the water. So in case it fills up, it doesn't flood, right? So. And he has a boat dock that he redid for the wedding. And he did it, and it's just absolutely beautiful. I'll show you guys pictures of it. It's really nice. But he built the whole thing himself. Something like that's like $25,000, $30,000 to do it. And he did it all himself. And he was doing it leading up to the wedding. Poor guy gets bronchitis on like a month ago. And the deadline was...
He just wanted to add a shit ton more stress to an already stressful event.
So I felt so sorry for him because he literally finished like the weekend before the wedding.
Oh,
I mean, it's still... You walk down you could smell the stained wood still. I mean, it literally just finished in time.
He must have had like 20 bags under his eyes.
Oh, poor guy, man. So
how many people were there at the wedding?
I would say about 60 or 70.
Oh, nice. Intimate.
Yeah, it was intimate, mostly family. Really, really good. I mean, his family meshes with our family really well, and there was a time at the end of the night that was really nice for me. Like I don't get this. My sister lives up in Seattle. She has a newborn. She has another one on the way, and she has Amelia, the one that I took a picture of that I think you guys saw.
That's the third picture you've posted holding a baby
lately.
Yeah,
I know. I
actually you're on a streak, dude.
It's happening, Justin.
Oh yeah.
Oh, these are just 24-hour lease options, bro. I'm just driving them. I'm just test driving them.
Just like your marriage theory.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just test driving them all out. Seeing if I want a little pudgy one. Do I want like one that drools? Do I want one that's loud? Do I want one that's quiet? So I'm trying to test drive.
You'll love whatever you get.
Yeah.
Whatever you get, you're gonna love.
I don't know.
I love seeing those pictures though.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you get people who maybe don't know me as a kid or knew like my story being raised. And they see me around kids, and I'm getting lots of DMs like that, and they're just like, "Oh, you look like a natural." This and that. I said, "I'm not a natural. I've been fucking trained my whole life. My mom had me raising my younger siblings very early on. So when it comes to changing diapers and burping babies and how to hold them, and I've been doing that since I was 10 years old. So like seeing me now, when people see it, they're like, "Oh wow, look at that! You know how to do all that stuff."
Now, when you're holding kids and you're
like
playing with them, is
Yeah.
Katrina just like melting? Is she just like, "Oh my god"?
She's the same way too. Like we both love kids.
But seeing you do it, because there's like a special thing that happens when a man is good with kids.
I think that
women just like.
Well, she's actually the one that made that comment that I'm saying right now. She referred to that because people say to her like, "Oh my god, do you see Adam with the kids? Like he's so good with the kids and this and that." And she knows my story. So she's like, there's no doubt in my mind the father that he would be, because I've seen him with kids before and I know his story the way he is. So I don't know. She doesn't. You have to ask her that. I don't feel she doesn't come up to me and doesn't act like that. If she does inside, she doesn't share it, which is probably a smart move on hers. I think she got all mushy. And weird about it.
I love little kids, especially at weddings, because they dress them up. So you get like the little babies in like little tuxedos and little girls run around.
That's great.
Oh, I can't help it. I got to just squeeze the shit out of them. So I just can't help it.
Pick them up.
Yeah, just kiss their.
No,
little
I love a kid, especially when they're good, man. So if that's what was neat about this whole 24-hour lease option I've been doing. Is like I hang on to them, and as long as they're good, as soon as they shit, I hand them back to their parents.
Right before the meltdown, like, oh, this one's gonna blow.
Yeah, there you go. Back to you. You can have them. But it was good. No, my mom looked beautiful. She looked happy, really happy. We got what I was getting alluding to was, there was a time at the end of the night where we were sitting around a little bonfire, and all of my siblings, including my mom and now Lonnie, her husband, were all sitting around the fire. And I can't remember the last time that every one of my brothers and sisters and their kids and my mom and everybody was actually sitting around together and kind of conversing. So it was really cool. It was neat to get caught up with all of them and see the whole family together. We just don't. My family doesn't do that very often. So when they do, and I'm at the age now. I think when you're in your 20s, like maybe you just don't give a shit. You're too selfish. Like I know I'm a selfish person still in my late 30s, but I think I just have a different perspective now. So I appreciate those moments like that I get with all of them. So I had a really good time.
Family's special.
Nice.
It's those are the people that have been through everything with you, or been with you since you were young, and so there's just an interesting, special bond with family, even when they're difficult bonds, because you guys went
when
through.
They're dysfunctional. Is that
Well, I mean, seriously, you've been through all that shit together,
all the stress and trauma and everything,
or whatever. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, that's definitely. I mean, one of the things I talk about too. I think we just did an interview recently where we got into my childhood, and one of the things I love and appreciate because of it is my sister and I are, Cassie and I are really, really tight. I mean, we're really, really tight because of all that, because we're 1 year apart and we did go through all that together, so it really forged a bond with us, and it doesn't matter how far away she is. I mean, I talked to my sister. I mean, my sister works for the company, right? So obviously we hear from her more than we probably would have if it wasn't for that. But even without that, I was probably talking to her 2-3 times a week, and she lives out of state. So for me to be able to communicate with one of my siblings, that's awesome.
My cousin came to visit this weekend. It was great, from Seattle. This is one of those things too. We realize like we're just so far apart, like distance wise, but also just from the family. There's just like whole removed part of the family we're trying to mend, and so it was just we're just trying to hash it out and try and get everybody kind of together, and dude, just realizing that family, it's like your blood, and let's see where we can work this out and like hang out more, and so I just started to. She stayed with me for like 2 days, and my grandma just moved down from up north, and so she's close by, so we got to spend time with my grandma and her and the kids and everybody. So it was that was important stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I didn't do much this weekend just because I got hit by that cold, but I did watch a bunch of Harry Potter movies with my kids. Those are really good movies. You guys want to watch them all?
Have you never seen them?
No, I watched the first one, and I never watched the other ones. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, I'm watching them now.
Oh, I love them.
We're going through them like one by one because my oldest is reading them. So once he finishes the book, we'll watch the movie.
Dude, I had no idea there was a fucking million of them.
I know.
So many of them, and to watch I'm fascinated because
J.K. Rowling, dude.
Well, I'm just watching the actors grow up as you watch each movie, because he was the main actor, they were all little tiny kids, and now they're all these, big adults and going through what kids go through as they get older, and
scratchy voice, and
yeah, it's really cool. It's crazy. Imagine if that was your acting career, you know what I mean, where you get 7 movies automatically, and you just grow up with them. They must have built a bond with each other.
Oh, I guarantee it. Yeah. I mean, it's like a lot of those old sitcoms, like back in the day. You see like these the families, like literally
pains.
Are families. Yeah, they grew up together on set and everything. It's kind of a trip.
Speaking of all this family talk, like I'm really excited what we're going to do here with our Mind Pump family. I'm excited to do this.
Pumpsgiving?
Yeah, well, yeah, we're gonna do a little friends, family, business type of Thanksgiving, all of us, and Butcher Box is gonna put it on for us, which is cool because they're doing this thing this year.
Dude, I love
where they
Butcher
have
Box.
the turkey a la carte, the family feast, or the ultimate feast, so they're now providing.
Bro, look at the
how rad is that? They have a turkey that you can get. From Butcher
first of
Box?
all, it's all of course, no hormones, no antibiotics, really, really high quality food. But check this out. With their ultimate feast, This is what you get. You get a 16 plus pound large turkey, 3.5 pounds of beef tenderloin, 5 plus pounds of what is that? Lamb leg, a pound of breakfast sausage, 2 pounds of Italian sausage, bacon, 10 ounces of bacon, and then you get a barbecue kitchen handbook and a Thanksgiving ebook, right? Under $200.
Holy smorgasbord!
Yeah, under $200 for all that stuff.
They did
delivered to your door.
So they did this last year, and it sold out fast. So we're letting people know ahead of time that if this is something that you guys, we're going to be doing that. We're doing the ultimate feast. I'm really excited for that. But if you guys are interested in getting a turkey from them or one of these feasts, is it the link will be in the show notes, right, Doug?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so you guys
we'll mention it in the intro too.
You're right. You guys can grab it, but I'm all pumped about doing this. I think it's really cool, and they have so it's a price range from $79 all the way to $200.
Yeah, the one I said was $200, but you could just get just the turkey, a 16 plus pound turkey for $79. So it's not bad, bad at all, dude. I want to tell you guys some cannabis news. There's another farm. So you're starting to see now pharmaceutical companies enter into the market with cannabis, but from a medicinal standpoint, right? I've talked about GW Pharmaceutical, which is one of the leaders, but there's another company called Insys, I believe, INSYS, and they just got orphan drug status.
Not ISIS.
No, not ISIS.
That's good.
You don't want those guys.
Yeah.
They got what's called orphan drug status. It's this like fast track from the FDA. So what the FDA does is, years ago, or the way it used to work for a long time, if you wanted a drug to get passed through the FDA, it's still like this. It's just this long, lengthy, expensive process. It could take as long as 10 years before you get something from conception to approval, and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of research and trials and all this stuff, which on the one hand, people say that's good because they're protecting the consumer, but on the other hand, many times there's areas of the market where there's people with no options whatsoever. They're literally dying and they can't have a drug because it hasn't been approved. And so what the FDA did a while ago is they created this kind of fast track where if there's a drug that shows promise for a condition that there are no other treatments for, then they'll speed that shit up and make it a lot cheaper because, like, for example, GW Pharmaceutical had orphan drug status for their epilepsy drug that was a CBD-based epilepsy drug because the type of epilepsy that it treated, there were no treatments for. And it was just a terrible form of epilepsy. Like kids would get 30, 40, 50, 100 seizures a day, no medications. So FDA's like, fine, we'll fast track this because, these kids need it and there's nothing else. Well, brain tumors there's forms of brain cancer that are also like this, where it's basically a death sentence, right? You get diagnosed with this and there's nothing they can do. Mm-hmm. Well, they have had some trials to show that they have some cannabinoid-based medicines, and we've known this now for a while with animal studies that cannabis or cannabinoids have this interesting effect on cancer cells. They kill them. They kill cancer cells in many cases, and in many cases they prevent metastases where the cancer spread. And so Insys got orphan drug status for to start trials on a cannabis-based cancer drug for a certain type of brain cancer.
That's awesome.
This is insane because up until now, really, your options with cancer are chemotherapy or radiation.
Yeah.
Both of which are
just like a nuclear bomb you're setting off in your body.
Yeah, they're just terrible treatments in and of themselves. And we've got advanced quite a bit, especially with radiation where we can target it, but still, they're not great.
Yeah.
With cannabinoids, they're super safe, like very, very safe. You could give someone a shit ton of cannabinoids and you're not going to get, you might get some side effects, but you're not going to get any permanent, as long as we know, bad effects or whatever. So it's pretty crazy that we're starting to see, and I've been saying this for the past 3 years on the podcast, that cannabinoid-based medicines, I think, are going to present a completely new class of drugs. This is a new molecule, and we're going to start seeing more and more stuff out. So on that same topic, there's more evidence that comes out. So a new study just got released or whatever, or at least they're talking about, that shows that cannabis has a protective effect on the liver when it comes to drinking alcohol.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. So what they're finding is, because of course alcohol is, very bad for the liver, especially if you drink a lot of it. Like, people who drink a lot of alcohol, the risk of liver disease is quite high.
So are we going to start adding to our we do our charcoal, we do our probiotic, and now we're going to do our 2 drops of
cannabis.
2 drops of Hello Ned right before before we do drinking?
Well, what they found was a reduction in all types of liver disease from people who drank a lot when the people also used lots of cannabis. So fucking A, isn't that rad?
Yeah.
That we're finding that. Not of course, you probably shouldn't drink alcohol.
Yeah, let's smoke and drink.
I don't. It's not 100% protective,
Right.
but I think it's fascinating that they're showing this kind of stuff because it's interesting because cannabis. So for years, the government has tried to link cannabis smoking with lung cancer, and they've never been able to show a connection because of the anti-cancer effects, of course. And then they did studies where they found that people who smoke cigarettes and smoke cannabis lower rates of lung cancer than people who just smoke cigarettes. So cannabis is one of those substances that, like, use it with other. I guess if you use it with other substances, may protect.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating that you go mix a bunch of substances.
That's right. So
But
if you're addicted to drugs, make sure
throw some marijuana
make
on
sure
that.
marijuana's in there.
Yeah.
But anyway,
be responsible.
But pretty interesting though, right?
No, it's really interesting.
Yeah. So
And is it? I'm assuming that it's some sort of CBD based, right? I mean, is that what it is?
what INSIS is studying is CBD based medicine. So I'm gonna probably buy some shares of theirs. I don't yet. So that's just full disclosure. I may have some special interest with them, but I'm looking at the price of their shares. It's nothing. For $8 a share might be a good gamble.
When did you come across this?
Well, I follow pages that will share like new cannabis news. So back when my ex mother-in-law, she got diagnosed with cancer and she used cannabis as part of her treatment, I went on all these pages and started following them all just to follow the latest research. And so anytime new research comes out, because this was, I saw an article on this on the 8th of October, so this is recently. Whenever there's new news that comes out with cannabinoid research, I typically will find out through one of these pages. So I think this is pretty fucking fast. What I think is going to happen, excuse me, is I think what's going to happen with this research is they're going to realize that the entourage effect of cannabinoids is quite viable. The entourage effect is the theory that you can single out cannabinoids by themselves, but they tend to work better in the presence of other cannabinoids. Now, the reason why pharma doesn't like that is pharmaceuticals drugs like to be very specific, like deliver a specific type of thing, and they'd be competing with the plant, which is probably going to be legalized in the next 10 years, and the plant automatically has the entourage effect. So you can imagine these pharma companies, like, that's going to be an interesting space to be in, because they'll make a medication that's just CBD or maybe just two cannabinoids, and then you got people over here like, I'm not going to get the prescription, I'll just get this the plant that has all of it in there.
It has more of like a holistic sort of approach to it.
It just seems the entourage effect is not additive. It's like it multiplies the effects. At least that's what it seems to be. So it's like, it's not like you add two things and you combine their effects. It's like they work better because there's more than one cannabinoid present, and especially with things like cancer. So we'll see what that's going to look like. I think it'll be an interesting.
Did we announce on the podcast the news that Canada released that they're full on?
Oh, they went legal this month.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
Did you see that their stores sold out in like a day or something like that?
No.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. People went crazy.
Apparently, there's some demand there.
Oh, I forgot what the numbers were, but I saw the numbers on a couple of their dispensaries, and it was just astronomical.
Yeah.
Like they just sold a shit ton of weed.
Wow.
Yeah, in a short period of time.
It's so great to just watch it all happen. Like I would have never seen all this happen, like as we were growing up, because it's the stigmas and everything else, attached to it.
I'm really curious to see the other things that we're going to see, like when it becomes, as it's getting there too, right? It's becoming almost as normal as seeing someone drinking a beer. Like it's not there at all, and definitely in other parts of the country, I'm sure it's not nowhere near there, but we're within 5 to 10 years of it being like that nationwide, I believe. And when it is, it's going to be interesting to see if we see things like, if we see crime go down, if we see like violence go down, if we see DUIs go down, if we start to see like this. Because I just believe that if there's an alternative for people to party with or do on these Friday nights or Saturday nights to let loose, I can just a party full of young people drunk as fuck versus a party full of people stoned. I'm
gonna go to the stone side.
I just feel like
cooler.
It's less likely to have
less abrasive
drama or issues going on with that, because I can't remember the last time that I've been at a party where there was a bunch of people high and it turned into an altercation.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see, because the other argument for that is that people won't use less of the other stuff. They'll just use everything.
Yeah, it's like a combination of everything.
Which would not, so it'll be interesting.
That's
to
why
see.
I'm saying I'm curious to see if it will. Like, I don't know what it's like to be a 16-year-old boy right now, and if
Right, because they're always wanting to rebel, right, and do things like counter to the culture and whatever's going on, and so that's something that worries me a little bit with, like, maybe meth or some of these other like crazy ass drugs out there that still exist.
Well, I think they'll shrink the black market, but if they regulate it too much, the black market will still exist. If they make it so expensive with taxes and so,
well, that's why it's still here. The black market is still in full swing. I know a lot of people still in the space, and a lot of them are still in that gray to black market area, because they've driven the taxes up so high and they make it so regulated. It makes it so it's like, well, even myself, it's hard for me to justify. I mean, now that we did something with ease, that's really the only reason why I'm using dispensaries again, is because I've got someone delivers it to my house within 20 minutes is awesome. And all I gotta do is push my phone. It gets automatically billed, this and that. Yeah. But to be honest, the quality of this stuff is, I can still find better stuff in the black market that I know a farmer who grows primo stuff, and they would rather get rid of it somewhere else in the club.
They make cash or whatever.
Yeah, because they make more money off of it, and it's easier than some of the regulations they have to go through with the club. So yeah, that's why I think it needs to go full legal.
Well, so there's two there's two levels to it. One level is decriminalization. The next level is full legalization. Now, the full legalization argument, I can see why I can actually see the argument against it, because full legalization then has the full strength of the American market behind it.
It can go full legalization, but like age restricted, right?
Yeah, that's still regulated, but still, my point is, when you go full legal, you now have the power of the American, capitalism behind it. Will that then promote the use of all these substances? So I've heard that argument. Now, for sure, my opinion, I think it's absolutely ridiculous and an assault on humanity for anything to be illegal where you're not hurting someone else. You're just hurting yourself. Now, if you hurt someone else, whether you're using drugs or not, for sure you should be punished. Or if you steal or damage someone's property. But if you're just hurting yourself, I think it's an extremely insane proposition that we've all just accepted as normal, that, hey, you over there hurting yourself, we're going to throw you in jail, or we're going to throw, these dogs are going to come search you, or we're going to come in your house and break in and whatever. That's insane to me. It makes no fucking sense. So I think decriminalization for sure. And then if we want to treat it like a mental health issue or just a health issue, okay, I could get behind that. But to treat it like a crime to hurt just yourself, very strange to me, and also I think has been done a shit ton of damage. And it's also, here's the other thing too. It gives the police a lot of power, a lot of discretionary power. So when there's a lot of criticism behind the cops, being, when they're profiling people or searching people, it's the drug war that gives them that power, because then they can be like, I think he's carrying drugs. Let's go check him out.
Right. Yeah.
If you eliminate that, then it kind of changes it a little bit. You know what I mean? So that's my whole. Portugal decriminalized all drugs over 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. They do all drugs, everything.
How's it going there still?
A profound success. Now, Portugal is a much smaller country. They don't have the same market, or whatever as we do, but it's the best example we have of what can happen with that. And so what they've done is they've taken all drugs, decriminalized small possession. So it's crime to deal like in big amounts.
So they're targeting more dealers, but not the actual user.
Yeah. So, but basically, what they're trying to do is find a smarter way to control, the market for it. So it's decriminalized on a small scale, still criminalized on a big scale. And what they're doing is they treat it like a health issue. So if you get caught with the drugs, you get a fine, and then if you get caught again, I think you have to go and seek treatment. Now, so far, they've lower rates of disease. There's lower rates of addiction. The black market has shrunk over there as a result. So I think so far they've all found it to be a success, and it's still popular over there. Nobody's voting it wants it to go back the way it used to be. And so I think that's the way that modern nations are going to go, to be quite honest. I think that's the direction it's going to go. The people against it or opposed it the most are law enforcement, because the prison complex, they don't like that, because if you take that away, like, they're going to lose a lot of their funding, because not so many people are going to go to jail. You have big pharma, big tobacco, and big alcohol. Alcohol and tobacco really enjoy their monopoly on the legal drug market. Think about it that way. Like, what the war on drugs has essentially done is protected alcohol and tobacco to be the only legal drugs you can use in America. And so they like that. They like that protection.
And caffeine, you could argue.
Yeah. Caffeine is
right.
It's funny you bring up caffeine, because more people are hospitalized from caffeine than almost anything else. People drink too much, go to the hospital because they can't.
Wow.
Heart palpitations, anxiety.
I think we're part of the generation where this is crazy exploded. I mean, we're the Starbucks generation.
Yeah.
I mean, before that, it wasn't as it's so crazy what the norm is now with the amount of coffee that you intake. I mean, that just 20 years ago, it wasn't like that.
Yeah, it's true.
20 years ago, it was like a random coffee shop that you go, or like a donut place.
Kids didn't drink
Nobody
coffee.
was putting anything in it. It was just like black coffee, and you're like,
yeah,
ugh.
that's a good point, Sal. No
kids didn't drink.
high school. Like, do you remember any friends in high school drinking coffee at school?
There was
Nobody
always
did.
that one hipster kid, like he was drinking coffee. But I swear, I like remember one guy, like he was all into the Smiths, and he was all emo. And
The
just like
Smiths.
fucking.
I got
October.
I got into drinking coffee when I was in high school. I was a junior in high school, and the reason why I did was solely out of like necessity. I was getting up before school at 4 o'clock in the morning to go work the dairy. So. And that I was told, like, I remember someone telling me, like, have you tried some coffee, like, to help? Because I remember going to work and like falling asleep on the wheel, like, because I was so tired. How early in the morning?
When I found it, it was like lightning in a bottle. I
Yeah.
was like, whoa, yeah, I can actually work in the mornings now.
But even then, like, when I was drinking it, I drank it before I went to work at 4 a.m., but I didn't drink throughout the day. I didn't have it at school. Like, it wasn't cool. It wasn't that. Like,
no, it was purely performance. Like,
Yes.
I wasn't drinking it because I enjoyed it.
where now I'd be interesting to see like a high school campus right now.
My first experience with caffeine wasn't even really coffee. I think I might have tried coffee as a kid, but it was like an energy drink, because I was into working out at the age of 14. But even then, we didn't have Red Bull. We didn't have these energy drinks that you could buy, or at least they weren't mass marketed.
Yeah, it became a huge market.
That became huge. We didn't have coffee. Kids didn't drink coffee. If you had caffeine as a kid, it was from Coca-Cola is what has a little bit of caffeine, but it was a small
There was
amount.
Jolt Cola. Remember that?
There you
Oh,
go.
my God,
But you know who drank Jolt? Jolt was like
crazy kids.
It was not even. It was adults. It was like adults who wanted to stay up and drink a soda.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I don't remember too many kids. I think I bought a Jolt Cola once because me and my buddy were like, "Oh shit, let's try this out." And,
Yeah, it was all taboo. It's
Yeah.
like, ooh, I got Jolt Cola.
Yeah. But caffeine now or coffee, I should say, that's widely consumed by kids. When I go to a Starbucks now, there's at least 2 or 3 kids in there in line getting a big ass coffee.
Frappuccino thing with whipped cream all over. And
and having all that, and then they're probably on Adderall too on top of it.
See, neither one of those things like really existed when I was in high school. Like, I don't remember. I didn't even know what Adderall was at that point, and I didn't see any kids drinking coffee at school. So what a shift and change in climate nowadays.
I had to actually talk to my son about Adderall this weekend. We're sitting around, we're having conversation. We took him to lunch because my daughter was with her cousin, so I had some good time just with my boy. And he was asking questions about, popular drugs, which I encourage my kids to be as open as they possibly can, not to be afraid to ask me anything. And so far it's working. So, my 13-year-old's asking me about drugs. And I told him, I said, the most widely abused drug you're probably going to run into as you get into high school and college are going to be methamphetamines. And they're going to be prescription. They're not going to be black market. So you're going to see a lot of kids using, prescription drugs like Adderall and Ritalin. And, I think the other one's Vyvanse is another one. And so I'm explaining to him the risks and benefits and why people use them. And, I think it's important to be super honest with your kid, because otherwise they're going to get their education from the fucking kids. From other kids,
I know.
Take this, man.
I got all these good grades.
Yeah. Oh, and imagine this. Imagine if you're a kid and you're in school and it's competitive and you're trying to do well, and your buddy's like, yeah, don't take this. I take this all the time. So you take it because it's like, oh, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
And then you feel it.
Yeah.
And then you get your homework done in 20 minutes, and now you're like, well, fuck, I'm going to use this.
What have I been doing the whole time?
Yeah, I'm going to use this all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Who was sharing that story to us about their after high school and college of using it that whole entire time, how hard it is to come off because they've identified all who they are as, or who they are with it, and how intelligent and how their brain works.
I've talked to several people
Yeah,
about
I don't
that.
remember who that was, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I've talked to several people about that, where they got all the way through college, and then you start to develop this kind of dependency, and maybe it's a psychological one where you think you need it, and then you get into the workforce, and then you're like, what do I do now? You know what I mean? Especially if you're a highly competitive field like medicine, or let's say you're in medical school, and then you graduate and you become a doctor. Do you think that you need to stay on this stuff all the time? Yeah, it's an epidemic. It's a bit of an epidemic.
I wish I would have thought to bring this up while we were talking about being sick and getting all over this shit, but there's this new trend that's coming out that I guess this lady in England or somewhere in Britain, like she created this little nose warmer. So like earmuffs. Like it's literally like a little earmuff for your nose. I had Doug, pull it up right away because I was just like, "Is this really like?" It's a trend that like people are like wearing these little, almost looks like a beak.
Oh, that is hilarious!
It's like knitted for them.
You know who's gonna wear that? People with big noses. I'm gonna hide that.
I don't know, bro. That makes it look bigger, dude.
That doesn't look good at all.
No, it's not a good look. And I mean, so what? Like, so if you have a warmer nose, apparently that's supposed to get you, like, you're not going to catch a cold as easy. Like, I don't know the thought process.
Yeah, and
there.
what if you have you have to blow your nose? It's gonna get all inside.
It looks like it's just a little. She could just put it up on her forehead.
Yeah,
you just take it off real quick, or like this.
Yeah, you got to Google it. It looks pretty awesome.
I feel like you would see
nose warmers.
Yeah, I feel like you would see a lot of these at like like one of those like festivals. You know what I mean? Like I could see a bunch of hippies walking around with these for whatever reason.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Like some kind of Burning Man kind of thing.
Yeah,
doesn't
that kind of look like
accessory?
Because it's knitted
nonsense. Yeah,
it's knitted. Doesn't it look like crochet or whatever?
I don't know. I think
it's like on Etsy.
They picked the cutest girl to put it on her, and it's still not working, dude.
No, it's not. It's not a good look.
You know where I'm on it. You know where I'd put that thing.
Yeah.
Little cod piece.
Yeah. Hey, look at my new underwear.
Oh, that's not where it
Brilliant.
goes?
Yeah. Oh, oops.
I thought that's where it went.
This quaz brought to you by Organifi. For those days you fall short on getting your organic veggies or whole food nutrition, Organifi fills the gap with laboratory-tested certified organic superfoods to help give your health and performance the added edge. Try Organifi totally risk-free for 60 days by going to Organifi.com. That's ORGANIFI.com. And use the coupon code MINDPUMP for 20% off at checkout. First question is from Rachel Erickson, 18. I see tons of stuff on binge eating and how to conquer it. What's legit and what's a myth? Any advice or suggestions?
Binge eating. First off, I want to open up by saying none of us are experts in issues like this.
Right.
Both binge eating, anorexia, bulimia, or anything like that. So what you're going to hear is our experience. Because now that doesn't mean we don't have experience dealing with this. Because if you trained clients for longer than a few years, I guarantee you're going to run into people with issues with food that results in binge eating. Now, this is a classic relationship with food issue. And what ends up happening, and it's funny, I actually wrote some notes on, not specifically on binge eating, but I can't remember why this popped in my head. I'm going to read.
Do you know this is one of the issues that I have with IIFYM?
Yeah.
Is because, and you touch on this a lot, Sal, on the podcast about just super highly palatable foods. Does it mean that if you have some packaged bar or something that fits in your macros that it's super bad for you and it's considered a bad food? Like, no. But what I know is that those foods are the ones that are most likely to be addictive. And when we in the health industry or the fitness industry promote these cheat days and cheat meals and, highly processed foods, I'm so not a fan of it. Not because I think that you can't have it every once in a while. I absolutely have something that would fall into the IIFYM category occasionally, but I'm also fully aware of the power of that thing and the addictive properties that come with that. And that is the part that I've always took this big stance on that movement, because I know it's not helping. Not helping as many people as people think it is. Like, and maybe you're listening right now and you're like, oh, it did wonders for me and I have great balance. That's awesome. That's great that it's worked for you. And I'm not telling someone like that they can't follow an IIFYM type of protocol. But I'm talking to a majority of the people that I used to train. Most people struggle with binge eating.
Yeah.
And because they've had bad habits or things that they had done their entire life, and they're trying to, and I can relate to this because sugar is mine. Like, as a kid, I ate it multiple times per day. As a young adult, I had candy in my house. I ate candy every single night. I had ice cream every single night for 20 years of my life. And now the back 15 years of my life, I've tried to avoid that as much as possible. And when I give myself little bits of it, man, I can feel it.
Yep.
I can feel my body wanting more. I can be just fine not having none of it. Sal opened up the other day, so to be fully transparent, because this topic is I'm very passionate about this conversation. And Jackie Martinez, one of our, someone who works for us and has been incredible help with our show notes since we've started the podcast. She comes down here every once in a while, and I get to spend time with her, and she knows all of us really well, and she knows that Mike and Ike candies was like my thing. And so she brings this big box of Mike and Ike candies that sat in our studio for like 5 months. And I never opened it. And that for me is a big deal, that I can have something accessible right next to me and not eat it. Because in the past, what I'd have to do to be successful is I can't have it in my house. If it's in my house, I will have a weak point at one point. I'll go eat it. I won't just have one. I'll crush the whole thing. I'll binge on it. And so we had it in here, and fucking Sal opened it. And I told him when he opened it, because he's like, you know what, I feel like one of these. And he literally opened it, and he put like one or two in his mouth, and that was all he wanted. And I said, you can't do that in front of me. I don't want one. Because if I have one, and sure as shit, we were sitting in here and I didn't do it right then. It was like maybe 4 or 5 days later, Katrina, Doug, and I are sitting in here late one night, and we're meeting, and I hadn't eaten all day, and I'm tired, and that box is right to my left. And I grab it, and I throw a couple in my mouth.
That was it.
And I start mindless eating while we're meeting. Bing! And I crushed the whole, 700 calories of Mike and Ike's or whatever it is in that box. I think it's 500 to 700 calories. And that is binge eating. Yeah. As an example of mindless eating, and it's so easy to do with these highly palatable foods, and it's even easier to do it if you're somebody who has already created some sort of an addiction or poor relationship with it.
Propensity to
and I know I have that.
Yeah, it's the whole relationship with food thing. So what over the last week I was watching, I don't remember what it was. I was watching this TV show, and there was this woman talking about how she can't leave her husband, even though he's abusive. Like, he's abusive. He beats her, hits her, does all these other things. And when they were talking to her about leaving him, she would say things like, but I love him. I'm in love with him. I can't leave him because I'm in love with him. And I thought to myself, and I thought, God, that sounds crazy from the outside, but really what it is she places all the value of her relationship on one aspect of a relationship, which is the feeling that you get when you're attracted to someone. And so that's all the value. She thinks in her mind, because I love him so much and I'm so attracted to him, all that other stuff doesn't matter, because that to her has no value. The main value on her relationship is this feeling that she has for this other person. So when it comes to food, and I thought about this right away, I'm like, this is like a bad food relationship where people place all their value on the taste of food, on the taste and the feeling it gives them. And that's it. There's no other value that they've established with their food. And so if that's all the value they have on food, and you also know that food is bad for you, what's going to end up happening is you're going to go through the cycle of not eating the food. Oh, no, it's bad for me. Yeah. But now, because all the value that placed on food is taste, and you're not eating that super tasty food anymore, then you give in and you binge and you go crazy.
Indulgence, then punishment.
That's it. And so the key is and this is a long process, and this is the only success I've ever had with clients, is to teach them to understand the other values that food provides to them. Because once you start to value those other things, then you make a better, more broad decision. And so then it becomes, and by the way, it's not ignoring the fact that food is super tasty, and it's not ignoring that you enjoy the taste and flavor of that food. It's just giving you more information. So now when I sit down in front of, let's say you sit down in front of the Mike and Ike's and you're looking at them and you know, like, they taste good, but you also have more information like, yes, they taste good, but they also do this for me. They do that for me. I don't feel good afterwards.
No, that's such a great point because you've heard of acquired taste, and it's like all these like certain things like you sort of grow accustomed to like the more exposure you have to them, and that's it. It's an acquired taste. You have to like really build your palate up to really crave like certain types of foods that maybe like initially it might not have like this amazing sort of euphoric reaction like you would like eating ice cream or something that just immediately gives that response to you. And most of those foods, like that's the problem. It's just like if it gives you that like really heightened super sweet and like you get that feeling from it right away, those are the dangerous ones. Those are ones I'm always like, okay, well, that has to be like a sparing, if anything. Like I just have to like make sure that I don't like really indulge into that.
Well, look, it's like any other substance. So you look at alcohol, right? So alcohol gives you, if you drink it appropriately, it gives you a buzz, you have fun, lowers your inhibitions. Now imagine if that was the only information that I ever really consciously or honestly considered when I drank alcohol. Well, it would not be hard for me to become an alcoholic because I wouldn't even consider all the other damage and things that it causes to me. But because I have that broad understanding of alcohol, I can drink it appropriately, which means, today's Monday, we're hanging out at work. Should I have a drink? Nah, it's not worth it. It's a wedding. I haven't seen these people in a long time. Should I have some drinks? Yes, now it's appropriate.
Yeah.
And so this is how you develop a proper and appropriate relationship with food. It's understanding those things, and it's a long process. I had a client years ago who the worst diet I'd ever seen in my entire life. This woman, it was so bad. She didn't even drink water, which I didn't believe her. It took me months to really believe that she actually didn't drink water, but she didn't. She just drank Coke. That's all how she got her fluids. For breakfast was powdered donuts. Lunch was a Hot Pocket. It was like the worst diet of all time. And so what I tried to do is introduce her to getting her to eat more vegetables. Now the problem was she gagged when she would eat vegetables. She told me she couldn't stand them. And so it was this long process of I would have her eat as much as she could tolerate, which was a bite of broccoli. That was the only thing she could tolerate for a long time. And then I told her to take notes about other things besides the taste, like how does it feel? How does your digestion? How's your energy? How's your skin? Well, over the course of months, she started to connect the dots with vegetables, and she noticed she felt better. She had more energy. She slept better. Her skin was better. All these wonderful things. And little by little, because she became aware of all the other things that broccoli has besides the taste, which she hated, but she has all these other things that she now, connects to broccoli. She started to eat more broccoli. And then the funny thing is she started to enjoy the taste of broccoli.
And that all happened. I had that same experience with my dad, but like that, even then, when you introduce these types of foods too, and they do agree to it, and then they go through that process, there's going to be, other barriers to overcome. Like your digestive tract is going to respond. Like you're going to get gassy. Like you're going to get this like response right away because it's some new stimulus, and we have to figure this out. Because if you have that shitty of a diet, something like that, like your body's going to have this reaction because it's, it's just inevitable. You're going to have so just getting through that. And then coming out the other side and then realizing, the benefits, the skin, the sleep, just the way everything like digests nice and evenly, your poops, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and the other thing too is you got to find another way to comfort yourself. So right now that's what you use many times, not always, but usually when people binge on food, it's a way for them to comfort themselves when they're stressed or anxious or whatever. You can't just take that away. You have to replace it with another practice. So it can be walking, it could be meditation, it could be, massage, it could be something else that you can start to find comfort in to replace that one thing. Otherwise, it's going to be a very difficult struggle for a while.
Well, there's another suggestion too that we didn't really talk about that I think helps, because I talked about Mike and Ike's, which is sugar, which is the obvious one that could be really challenging and doesn't need to be, there's no reason for me to have, candy in the diet on a regular basis at all, or if ever. So that's one example. But then you have other things where people can binge too, which is, if you have you love salty foods and you get a handful of almonds, and a handful of almonds turns into the whole bag of almonds. And that ends up being 1,000 calories in nuts that, because it's a healthy snack, you justify it and you binge it and you do this mindless eating. Now, if you are listening and that is you, or you have a habit of doing things like that, this is where portioning your food out. And like we used to do, I do this still today. Like, I just read the other night, Katrina asked for some of the, smoked almonds that we have that we love and we keep around the house as like a nice little snack. And she goes, when I was going downstairs, she says, could you give me some almonds? And when I give her almonds, I don't just bring her the jug of it or whatever. I actually will weigh out 1 ounce of it and put it. We have these little tiny I don't know if you've ever seen these little tiny sandwich Ziploc. They're not even
little snack bags.
They're snack bags, right? They're little tiny things. And I'll weigh that. Now I don't have to weigh it anymore because I know exactly how many almonds is in 1 ounce, and so I know that, so I could just throw it in the bag real quick. But I'll bring it to her like that versus just walking up and handing her the full bag of almonds, because then it's really easy, especially when you're watching a movie or you're at a meeting or you're doing something else that takes your mind off of you snacking on the food, and that can get out of control. So portioning your food out ahead of time and knowing what your body needs and feeding yourself that way, I think is really important. And a habit that I'm always trying to get better at is getting rid of the electronics when we're eating and actually being fully present. If I'm putting something in my mouth, I'm always trying to practice being more mindful. Now, does it happen all the time? No, there's sometimes, like I gave the example of allowing, Mike and Ike's while I'm in a meeting. Yeah, no shit, I'm going to eat the whole box, because I'm not even thinking about what I'm doing. I'm thinking about the meeting and all my brain's turning, and I'm just mindlessly throwing these things in my mouth until the box is completely empty. So being aware of that, I think, is a good suggestion and a good way to start in the right direction, is being aware that you don't want to be distracted when you're eating anything and trying to be very present at what you're consuming.
Next question is from A. Yauk 96. Biggest mental hurdle you've had to overcome in your life?
Ooh, mental hurdle.
Yeah.
I know the first thing that comes to mind was the first time I ever felt what I think depression was. Like, I don't, and I still to this day don't know if that's really full-blown depression or this was just one of the darkest, hardest times for me. So those that know my childhood, my story, and what I came from, I attached success, my credit score, buying a house at a young age. I attached a lot of those things as my identity, because I wanted so badly to not be like my parents that I worked so hard, even from a young age into young adulthood, to be this, smart, successful, financially stable, excellent credit. I mean, by the time I was 22, I had my house. I had an 800 plus FICO score. I had money in the bank. I had 30 credit cards with no balance that I could run up to as high as I wanted. So I had a lot of pride built around this. And when that got stripped from me, it was the most humbling experience I ever had in my life. And I went through about 6 months of what I think was depression. And that was when I decided to walk away from my house 10 years later. And when I did it, it was the right thing to do. It was a smart strategy. The market was taking a shit. My house was about $100,000 upside down at that time. And, I had advice from one of my good buddies that was in the industry, and he said, listen, it's going to get darker. It's going to get worse. He goes, right now, you're going to be able to short sell it, walk away from it. It'll take a ding on your credit. And, by the time you rebuild it, you'll save more money by getting rid of this thing than trying to hang on to it and keep paying what you're paying on it. And my buddy was right. It was the right move to do, but I had no idea what it was going to do to me mentally. And when I had to do that, I went from this, here I am. I think I was 28, so this was 20 or maybe 29 when I short sold my house. And when I did that, it fucked my credit up. and now people thought I lost my house, like I couldn't afford to pay the mortgage, and it wasn't that case at all. It was a smart strategy that we did, but because I identified so much with this guy that had bought his house by his early 20s and it had this great credit score and all these things, it just crushed me. It crushed me now because, I now had this stigma around me, like, oh, he lost his home. Oh, he doesn't have good credit. And no one probably gave a fuck except for me. And so it was a major mental hurdle for me that I was in depression for about 6 months, and it took me years later before I moved on from that and was like, okay, this is not me. I am not my house. I am not my credit score. I am not these things. But that was the hardest time for me ever, was to break that. And and today it's just now, I just now in the last year had got to the point where I'm back up towards and I'm not even in the 800s anymore. I'm like the mid 7 to high 7s now, but it took me almost 6+ years to recover from that. And that was extremely difficult for me. And I didn't know why it was difficult when I was going through it. It was later on reflecting back and realizing.
It's always like that, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Realizing that it was because that was so important to me, which I look now and I think it was very good. It was smart. It was great. It was great that I went through that, and I was humbled like that because, it reminds me of, what's his face's book, the Mini Mask. A lot of my success was because I was wearing this mask, and I wanted to be so successful, and I didn't want to be these things so bad that it pushed me to success at a very early age. And then to have that stripped away was also one of the most humbling things. So I think it definitely brought me full circle, and I'm in a better place today. But going through that was probably one of the hardest times ever.
Yeah, it's always when you're going through it, I think you're, because I know when I went through mine, when you're going through it, you don't realize just how much it's impacting you because you're surviving and you're just handling things. And then when you come out of it, you look back and you go, holy shit. Mine was recent. Mine was my divorce. You guys saw me go through the worst, most challenging time of my life when we started Mind Pump. It was right around the beginning of it. Realizing that I now am not going to, the hardest thing I think was, there was a few things that were really difficult with it. One was I had identified very strongly with, being the family man with the wife and kids and the home and all that stuff. My family places a lot of value on that. So that was tough, kind of shed that. It's a hit to the ego, right? Because our marriage failed. But the big one that was very difficult that I think I'm just now, we're talking over 2 years later, 3 years later, just now coming out of was the guilt of doing that both to my kids and also dealing with the fact that I don't see my kids every day. And it wasn't that I was this super duper involved father. I definitely love my kids, but knowing that I would wake up on some days in the morning and my kids weren't there, that's a very difficult thing to wrap your mind around. That okay, my kids are not going to be with me at least half the time, and it's kind of strange. And then when they were with me, it was I was a very full on father, whereas before, at the time my wife would do a lot of that, that kind of stuff, and I was the guy that would just play with the kids and love them. So I had to do this big shift and change, but the guilt was just absolutely crushing, and it's a huge difficult transition to go through. And just like you, Adam, it's like I don't the further I get out of it, the more I realize how deep it was. You guys literally saw me at my absolute worst, and I'm still not back to my best. It's still something that's very difficult to deal with, but I'm emerging out of it, and what's coming out is much better. I would say more balanced, version of myself. But boy, when you're going through some shit like that, it's like you're just surviving, and that's what I did. So I tried to do. I survived. Now I had people like you guys supporting me, which kept me alive. And obviously Jessica was a big part of that. That whole process of keeping me, sane and keeping me healthy, and keeping me healthy enough to be a good father through that whole process. But man, that was a very, very difficult time. But I think like you, Adam, you look back and you start to realize like it was a good thing. It was a good thing I went through that. I'm a much better version of myself now. I continue to get better as a result of it. And then you realize, if you're listening right now and you're going through some shit, realize this: if you can make it through, really that's the only way to get through is to go through it. If you can make it through, what comes out the other end is a much better, smarter, more humble version of yourself. If it doesn't break you, if it doesn't kill you, what they say, makes you stronger. It's very, very true. And so that's mine.
Yeah, I was trying to excuse me. I was trying to think of like you always tend to think of things that happened probably the most recently, and I think that I've gone through a lot of mental hurdles. I mean, that's part of like the timeline is like you face things, you overcome it, and there's been a way that I've been able to deal with things, and I think that just recently the way that I've tried to deal with things hasn't worked, and so me being floored and humbled and having to readjust the way that I deal with things has been the biggest mental hurdle. So instead of just like picking the pieces up and like barging my way, keep going forward and, carrying the torch and just, hammering my way through life. That was a hard lesson for me that I can't always do that. And I have to learn how to quit, when I have to quit. And I think that, as far as me going away from my family and going to Chicago, and that was a big learning lesson for me, and just starting over again, sort of reinventing myself and going through that process, but then coming back and then, going through the trials and tribulations of business in general, and just going off on my own and creating things and partnering up with people and going through these different processes. And then, the most recent one for me coming through with trying to like develop a product and then put it to market, and, your name's on it, and, all your pride is invested in it because it's something that, you pour like years into it. And then you realize it's just not there. It's not there. It's like, it's something that you need to like, just go on. You need to let go. And then just me holding on to know it's going to work. It's going to work. It's going to work. And what that did to my family and, people around me, and like, you just see like you guys talk about like later, you realize like kind of what that created, and like how much time I had to give to people. I didn't have any, like I just eliminated that. And so, yeah, like, I mean, these are like just life lessons to me. Like it's difficult. It's a difficult thing to adjust when you have like certain ways of operating and like realizing, well, this is affecting me physically now. My body's like, boom, no, like I'm not going to let you keep, moving forward, carrying all this stress and weight and everything, and burning things around you. Like you have to stop, man, and you have to start prioritizing and looking at these challenges differently and take on challenges that make sense at the time and eliminate the ones that don't make sense.
It's amazing how life, whether you're a spiritual, religious person, you believe in the universe does all this shit, whatever your belief is, I find it very fascinating how life tends to serve you up these amazing lessons, and it's just whether or not you're willing to look at it that way. It's very easy, especially in this fucking climate we're in right now with this victimhood bullshit where shit happens to us and we're so quick to point the fingers at these outside forces and everybody else instead of reflecting on how you've caused that potentially, or what is the lesson in this for me. And it's really fucking tough to do that when you're in a dark space, when you're going through these mental challenges. To do that, it's much easier to take the victimhood and go that direction and point fingers. But in my experience, these really, really dark times, or these really mental hurdles that I've gone through, have always been huge reflections of myself and why and the things that I most identified with, the things that I had the most pride in, or what I was so certain about, are normally the things that smack me in my face. And I think that's a really fascinating thing that it tends to happen to us. And I think it takes a really really, really strong person to, when you're in those moments, to look at it and to look back at yourself and to think, what is the lesson for me in this versus, oh, this happened to me and all the shit that has occurred has been because of other people or things, instead of going, wow, this is my pride, this is my ego, and I'm being shown this right now, whether it be, like I said, from some outside source or whatever you want to fucking think or believe. I do believe that there's lots of messages that are out there that a lot of people struggle with being able to look at and reflect, you know?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Next question is from the Girls Gone WOD podcast.
What up, girls?
Hey, it's our friends.
If you had all the time in the world and no other life restrictions, what would you want to immerse yourself in and learn more about, and why?
Immerse yourself in.
Wow. You know, why this is hard is because I feel like maybe me, I'll just speak for myself. I feel like I do that, right? I feel like I maybe I would immerse myself more. So if maybe that's where we're going with this, is that if I didn't have any financial responsibilities, or I didn't need to work, and then all I could do is study and learn neuroscience and psychology, man. I love that. I'm fascinated with how the brain works.
That's why you like Tom Bilyeu so much.
Yeah, dude.
You guys share that in common.
I really do. I really am interested in where that research is going right now and what we're learning about that. I love psychology. I've always liked psychology, so I would probably immerse myself in that even more, because I read like that already, but I think I would dive even deeper. What I don't do, I'll tell you this, what I don't do that I wish I did more, and Sal's really good with this, like, I like neuroscience and psychology, so I read a lot of books around that. But what I don't do is I don't read a lot of like studies, and I don't get in, like, I can't get into PubMed the same way that Sal does, where if I had a lot of time and I was just fully immersing myself in that, I think I would probably do both in combination with reading books.
Dude, all you got to do is, this is a very easy way to do it.
Give me the hack, dude.
Yeah, all you got to do is, if you go on Facebook, because there's a lot of pages and stuff for different things that people are interested in.
I'm doing it right now.
Look up psychology, type that in, or look up neuroscience, or neuroscience news, or just look up different things, and then you'll see all these different pages. Then click on the page, see if you like what they're posting. If you like it, just start following it, and then what'll happen is it'll just show up in your newsfeed. So when I go through my newsfeed,
they hand select all those for you, huh?
It's their groups.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and they just hand select, and they'll post new studies. Oh, this just came out, or whatever. And so now when I go through my newsfeed, I have all these, people posting on, cannabis science, on, I like psychology also. So psychology, philosophy, history, economics, politics, they just pop up, and then I just click on it and I read, and it's like they just give it to me. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's cool. I think for me, and this is probably not going to come as any surprise to you guys, but what Adam said for sure applies. Like, I think there's a lot of room for even venturing into other things that interest me within this business alone. And that's what's so great about it, is just the kind of room that we've created in terms of like being creative and going in different directions and having it still apply to what we're doing. But like I do have like this passion for film, and I have this passion for music, and so those would be my two directions to really immerse myself in a bit
cross-dressing
more.
too,
and that, because I love them high heels. I just do.
I like the way they feel.
Yeah, but I do like I have all these ideas that like lead me in that direction. Like, I would just love to learn actually, how to frame things, how to like. Tell a story better, like within, the film, and do it that way, and like kind of shadow somebody and watch the process of it. That'd be fascinating. But I just love music. That's the other part of it that I just kind of flirt with every now and then. But when I was just focused on music, it was a lot of fun.
Dude, I can't remember I thought of you over the weekend. We were watching, I don't remember what it was. I think it was on Netflix, and they had these little short documentaries, and they had one on music. And how I had no idea how complex the human intelligence is for the way that we recognize music and melody, and I had no idea. It never dawned on me. But as I'm watching it, we're the only animals on Earth that can perceive and understand all these different aspects of music, whereas other animals are very, very limited or nothing at all. Some animals can pick up on a sequence of sounds, but if it's up an octave or below an octave, they don't understand anymore. Whereas we can, regardless, we can pick up the same sequence or pick up, harmony or whatever. The human mind evolved around music in an incredible, in a very fascinating way. So as I was watching this, it was really interesting to me. I thought about you, Justin.
Yeah, you gotta like send me over like what that was, that documentary.
It actually got me more interested in maybe learning more, learning more music. I know Jessica now she wants to start learning music because I think that kind of spurred that that thought. And I think it's probably, I don't know what came first, but it's definitely how humans
communicated.
That's
forever.
That's how we had history.
Yeah.
We did before we were able to record it, write it down and record it. It was music that allowed us to pass on history, and up till this day, you're far more likely to remember things if you sing them.
And it's gonna help exactly. It's gonna help your communication. It's gonna level you up there too, because you notice even people have a delivery like a certain like up and down kind of cadence with it too that is really effective, and it's effective for a reason. And it's interesting to kind of see like if you like patterns in terms of like sound like that. So,
well, they were showing people in this particular documentary. They were showing how like Parkinson's patients who normally would move very jittery or whatever, with music, moving with the music, all of a sudden their movement becomes fluid. They were also showing where they were talking to patients or victims of stroke where parts of the brain had died or whatever, and they weren't able to recall things, but if they were singing it, they were able to recall and communicate. It's really fascinating shit. But anyway, that's that's off the side there. For me, it's probably, I like psychology a lot too. I find that really, really fascinating. I love just humans in general just fascinate the hell out of me, especially the complexities of our behaviors and cultures and why we do the things that we do. And I also enjoy other aspects of that. I love history, really, really love history. I think it's fascinating to read about characters in history and also just think about how different people were just a few generations ago, how acceptable certain behaviors were that today we would consider abhorrent, or just different ways of thinking. And literally a few generations, it's like 3 old people ago. That's not that long ago, right?
Yeah.
Like vastly different ways of thinking in some respects. So I love history for that kind of stuff. Of course, economics fascinates me, but I don't like the details of economics. I like economic theory and understand. And really, it boils down to psychology. I like economics because I like understanding how humans progress and interact with each other, and when they do it in voluntary ways, the things that we're able to accomplish, when we're able to do it that way is pretty fascinating. And I think that's pretty much it. It's funny because it's a hard question to answer because I didn't get into work and then have other hobbies and stuff. I turned my interests and passions into my work.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean?
That's why I had a hard time, because it's like these are things that I'm already immersing myself in. So after listening to you guys talk and then Justin kind of touching on music, it does actually remind me of something that I think it'd be fun. I think people might laugh when I say this, but I would immerse myself back into sports more. I mean, I've been doing that more lately than I have in a long time, and it's reconnected me even more strongly with my childhood best friends. And I love the game. I love the game, and I love all sports, and I don't have the time to follow. Like, I love hockey, I love basketball, I love baseball, I love football. And when I was a kid, I had the ability and the time to immerse myself in all those sports, and I just don't have that. Like, now I have to pick like one, maybe two that I really follow intently, and then the rest I just kind of fall wayside.
It's funny because I had this conversation with my best friend. We were like, running the dogs and stuff, and we were reflecting on that game that we played, for football, and like we're just these old guys. We're talking about that we would totally do to get in a heartbeat, and really the appeal for it was just that it was like this expression that, like, even though it was like insanely hard and like I was gassed and like was not in any sort of shape like I normally was, like it was just like getting through that. It was like this euphoric kind of feeling again. And it was funny because I was like, yeah, but I work out, and I try and like emulate that kind of stress and that sort of like overcoming that that training and getting better, and I thrive in that. But at the same time, for me, like working out feels like blue balls. Okay, hear me out. Okay,
Whoa.
So instead of like, how Arnold's like it's like pump, like getting the pump. It's like
I know where you're going with
right.
this.
Like I don't have that. It doesn't translate to anything. I don't like.
You don't have a goal you're working
Yeah,
towards.
I'm not
right?
like it's not like this explosion, if you will, of abilities that I'm displaying. So, yeah, there you get the metaphor there.
Next up, Shamel Fitness. Is there such thing as a weed hangover?
Hell yeah.
For sure.
For sure. I've had this before.
Yeah.
This is why I don't like edibles.
Edibles give you more of a hangover?
Absolutely. Because what happens is if I take like and this is why, it's the same reason why if I were to smoke a ton, it would give me the same feeling. It's just you're taking too much of it. And it's just like alcohol hangover. When you feel that way, you overdid it, right? And so that's part of your gauge is you didn't. And I feel edibles are the easiest to do this with. Like if I'm smoking weed and, before I'm even done smoking, it will already have hit me and I'll feel what I feel like. So I won't, and then I'll stop, right? And there won't be this, like, I won't keep, once I feel like, oh, wow, I'm really high right now, I don't just keep on smoking. But with an edible, I can easily misgauge, how much I should take based off of, the last time I took 10 milligrams, I felt this way, so I want to feel that way again. Oh, whoops, I'm on an empty stomach. My body just sucked that right up, and now I'm on this ride for longer than I'd like, and then it carries into me falling asleep, and then when I wake up, I feel groggy. So, yeah, I mean, wouldn't you say that you could have a hangover for almost anything that you overconsume? I mean, you could have a food hangover, you could have a caffeine.
Yeah, Thanksgiving.
Right? Can't you have a hangover from almost anything?
You can, definitely. I think with cannabis, and this, by the way, if you look this up, you'll get lots of anecdotes on people who say that they get a weed hangover if they have too much. I can tell you that there's definitely a scientific explanation for it. We just don't know quite, what's causing it. Although what you're saying about the edibles, Adam, might make sense because when you consume cannabis, the THC actually gets converted to a more potent form of THC. It's delta 11, I believe, delta 11 THC. When you smoke it, it's delta 9, and that's why it lasts longer. That's why when you have an edible, you can stay, high or whatever for 3 to 5 hours. Whereas if you smoke it within a couple hours, it usually goes away. And that's why I think maybe you're more likely to get a hangover is because it lasts longer in the body. Now, my opinion, the reason why I think this may be a thing. When your body's exposed to all these cannabinoids, I think your body starts to downregulate your endocannabinoid receptors quite rapidly. And you'll notice if you smoke one day or you have some one day, the very next day your tolerance is already up. The very next day, you can have this. You could have 5 milligrams of THC today as an edible. Tomorrow, the same 5 milligrams of THC, it's not going to feel as strong, which is evidence that your body's already started to adapt. And so I think what happens is if you hammer yourself with all these cannabinoids, your cannabinoid receptors downregulate, which means these receptors that cannabinoids attach to kind of shut off. And remember, your body makes its own cannabinoids. It has its own natural cannabinoids. So now that you have less receptors, your normal circulating levels of cannabinoids that you normally have now are having less of an effect on you. And so what does it feel like to have less of an effect? Well, you might feel cranky, you might feel foggy, you might feel unmotivated, tired, you might have a headache. You just might feel kind of like, not that good. And then you wait to the next day and then everything seems to come back to normal. I also think that your body might produce less of its own cannabinoids when you're constantly flooding your body with cannabinoids from the outside, phytocannabinoids from cannabis. So, and this is one of the talking points I always have when I tell people to use cannabis appropriately. Like you smoke a shit ton of weed now, just because it's not toxic doesn't mean it's not without its own negative effects. And you have a ton all the time. I think your body may actually start to produce less of its own cannabinoids. Mm-hmm. And you may actually produce a situation where it's not unlike drinking coffee all the time. You go off coffee, now you have this week of feeling terrible. I think the same thing can happen with cannabis. So that's what I think that's happening. I think you're just hammering your body with too much of it. I think the long-acting form of THC that happens when you eat it, because your liver converts it to this longer-acting form, it makes it more likely that you're going to have a hangover. And this is something that I'll experience like when we go on trips, and sometimes when we're creating a program all day long, we'll be consuming cannabis all day. I'll notice when I get back from the trips, it takes me a couple of days to get back to normal. It's just too much.
Yeah.
There's the right amount for sure. And I do feel that like I guess like now you mentioned it with edibles. Yeah. If I go past a certain amount, it definitely, the next day, I mean, I don't want to, there's no motivation. It's just like a very much of a, I'm forgetful and I'm just low energy. And so, I mean, that's definitely, I'd consider that a hangover.
Well, I also feel a lot better when, and I didn't start doing this till I met you, Sal, which is looking for a 1-to-1 ratio, or a simpler way for me to do it now. Like if I'm smoking, which I tend to do on a more regular basis, I'm not big on edible. But now that we've been sponsored by Ned, I keep that by my bed, and then I take a drop. If I decide I'm going to smoke right before bed, I also take a drop of that, a dropper of that with that, and I feel better from that.
Well, I think, and they're not quite sure how CBD works because it doesn't attach to the two known receptors that we know about. Now, either there's another receptor that we haven't identified yet, or what a lot of scientists think that's happening is that CBD improves your body's ability to utilize cannabinoids, both your own endocannabinoids and maybe the phytocannabinoids. What it may be doing is CBD may actually be upregulating cannabinoid receptors, which if you're going to downregulate your cannabinoid receptors with lots of THC, then it makes sense that CBD would help mitigate some of the negative side effects by maintaining the upregulation of those. So you may actually be downregulating less because you're having CBD. Now, in my experience, I'm the same way. If I have a 1-to-1 ratio, I feel much better at the time and the day after. And the studies that they've done have shown that people get less anxiety, less paranoia, less memory loss when they go 1-to-1 ratio versus just pure THC. And the reason why, most cannabis has so little CBD is because
that's how the plant grows.
Well, the black market pushed so hard the high that everybody just bred plants that were just high in THC. It's only recently that we've seen now growers try to breed in some CBD in there as well, because for a long time, CBD doesn't get you high. So why would anybody buy it on the black market? You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, and it made no sense being a grower who was very familiar with Charlotte's Web and Harlequin, which are your more dominant CBD plants. They also grow differently, and they yield very little. So it makes no sense as a grower and a farmer to produce a product that very few people wanted, and it also yielded lower. It made no financial sense unless you had a very specific need that you were trying to produce X amount of CBD.
Well, the irony of it all is it's funny because, again, this is what the black market does. The black market pushes a stronger, more potent version of all drugs. Because the only reason why you can find cannabis now that's CBD and high CBD and all that stuff is because it's now been legalized, either both medicinally and recreationally. If that never happened, we still would not have.
Yeah, it'd just be all THC.
It would, because nobody would know what's in there. They don't know the benefits. They would just use it and just want to get high. And this is what ends up happening. All black market drugs, the potency goes through the roof. It's got to hit you harder for the same amount or whatever. So it's pretty ironic, right? That the legalization now is producing cannabis that is probably better for you than what the black market did.
True.
So, and with that, if you go to mindpumpfree.com, you can download some free guides. We have the latest guide that we have is how to squat like a pro. We talk about some advanced techniques to getting your squat up into the stratosphere. Get a bigger squat.
Whoa.
Mindpumpfree.com.
Thank you for listening to Mind Pump. If your goal is to build and shape your body, dramatically improve your health and energy, and maximize your overall performance, check out our discounted RGB Super Bundle at mindpumpmedia.com. The RGB Super Bundle includes MAPS Anabolic, MAPS Performance, and MAPS Aesthetic. 9 months of phased expert exercise programming designed by Sal, Adam, and Justin to systematically transform the way your body looks, feels, and performs. With detailed workout blueprints and over 200 videos, the RGB Super Bundle is like having Sal, Adam, and Justin as your own personal trainers, but at a fraction of the price. The RGB Super Bundle has a full 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can get it now plus other valuable free resources at mindpumpmedia.com. If you enjoy this show, please share the love by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes and by introducing Mind Pump to your friends and family. We thank you for your support, and until next time, this is Mind Pump.